Hey everybody, this is Lorraine.
And Jennifer.
And today we're going to start with probably what should have been the very first question we ever asked on this show. Because it's one we get a lot, and that is, I'm ready to start marketing my business. Where do I start?
Do I do SEO? Do I do ads? Do I do organic social media? You know, where do I start on all that?
And it's a valid question, and I'm going to make the assumption that we're having this conversation after you've defined your customer and after you've defined your primary objective.
And after your data is already set up to track all of this.
Absolutely. You've done all those things, and now you're ready to start diving in. And I've always been, and I have slowly pulled Jen to the dark side, I've always been a content girl. I've always felt like tell your story first and then find ways to share it.
Yeah, it took a journey of starting with paid ads, because that's where I started at, before I realized that I can make all the prettiest paid ads in the world, but if I'm not landing on a page that tells the story, and if the rest of the website can't tell the story, then it doesn't matter. It's kind of wasted.
I was talking to someone recently who was creating ads, and they were frustrated because they weren't converting. And then you looked at, well, where are you sending them? And they're like, well, to my homepage. Why?
Yeah.
They found you. They had a specific question.
Yeah.
They're looking for an answer.
Even if you go to an internal page, let's just say you're a step above, it's still, if it doesn't answer the questions that you were posing or the situation you had out wherever you're promoting at, that doesn't make sense. So I content marketing is where you really have to start. And somebody that's not in marketing doesn't typically call it content marketing, because they're like, well, what's content?
And what is content? It is your story in words. It is
or video
or
audio or image.
But it is your story. And whether you start with a video because that's where you're comfortable, or a podcast because that's where you're comfortable, or a blog post, you get that story down, and now you can take that story in multiple directions.
I like how you just said comfortable, because sometimes people struggle with which one do I do first, and it is a matter of what's more comfortable. That original question we proposed is more about promotion, like getting it out there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, but you got to have something to get out there. So create that story and then start breaking it up into manageable pieces. Mm-hmm. Most people these days have the attention span of a goldfish. Ooh, look, there's something new. Ooh, look, there's something new. And so you can't tell them a long story, but you can tell them a little bit, and then the next time they see you, whether it's in person, whether it's on LinkedIn, maybe it's a reel, you can tell them a little bit more.
Well, and we've talked about this before. You can start with a longer story that then gets broken up. I'm not a fan of constantly telling the little short stories if it doesn't lead to a big story.
So I'm actually doing an experiment on LinkedIn right now. Jen loves my LinkedIn experiments. But the one I'm doing now is on Tuesdays. On Tuesdays, I drop the full-length video of my episodes, my podcast episodes. Yeah. And so you see the full-length video. It's usually 10 or 11 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then on Thursday, I do shorts. And what I'm finding is on LinkedIn, my 10-minute videos are getting more engagement, they're getting more comments, they're getting more interaction. So on LinkedIn, the longer story is great. On YouTube, oh my God, I get 10 views for a video and 200 for a short.
Yeah. But you know your audience. Mm-hmm. Back to the beginning, you knew where your audience was going to be at, and so you're playing in the right sandbox. Mm-hmm. Before you're then, manipulating the content in order to get that promotion on a particular platform. So yeah, it just makes sense.
Absolutely. And so if you start with video or audio, you can always take that transcript. You can turn it into a blog post. You can turn it into a series of little quotes. You can turn it into a series of questions.
That's our reusable, reuse, and
Yes, but if you start with that story, and then we haven't even gotten to the promotion point, because there is a point where you need to think about ads.
Yeah, there is, but if I'm looking at those order, SEO is a big world, and there is a lot that is involved with it, and depending on who you talk with, it's going to be one thing or another, or maybe you're calling it AEO or whatever. You got to have that, and then I think organic social media is next, and she's going to be like, yeah. And then I think ads is, and what ads will allow you to do is just kind of turn the dial up and really understand what's working and not. And you can turn the dial off, and it doesn't have to be consistent, spending of money.
Absolutely. The advantage with starting with social is you begin to get a sense of, what is my audience responding to? What do people like already? And put a little more money behind those things, and stop trying to shove broccoli at a kid that doesn't want vegetables.
And since the algorithms have changed and your content is being shown to people who interact with similar content, honestly, if it's not working, then your content's wrong.
Absolutely. All right, so if you're sitting there and you're trying to decide where to start, number one, subscribe to the Small Biz Chat. You can do it on YouTube. There'll be a link in the show notes.
There you go.
Number two, start with content, and we'll see you next week.
All right, take care.
Bye.